And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you are all well. We have, of course, got a big one for you today, as Keir Starmer has come out for the first time since addressing his Labour MPs. The first time, of course, the Labour leader for Scotland came out and, of course, told him to resign. He hasn't really been making too many public appearances, of course, since the whole Peter Mandelson fallout. And, of course, many people in the country want him to go. However, he did give a speech today, and apparently it's being said that it was the same sort of speech that he gave to his Labour MPs yesterday and last night that forced them to decide to stick by his side. Let's have a little listen to it in this live stream, guys. And of course, I want to know your thoughts in the live chat. Just a quick heads up. He goes on to talk about lies, that he cares, and of course, it's all about the fight against reform. Have a watch of this, guys. First, hit like, hit subscribe, and get involved in the live chat.
And thanks for giving up your time this afternoon so I can have a chat with you. It's been a busy week, and therefore it's very nice to be here with you, and I'm really looking forward. I think I'm going to come round from table to table. But I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to have the opportunity to say that I know that whatever's going on in the world, and it's volatile out there in the world at the moment, and whatever's going in the turmoil of politics, there's been quite a lot of that going on in the last few days. I know that for you and for millions of people, what matters most is the cost of living. Actually paying the bills, getting through, improving living standards, public services that work. These are the things that matter hugely for people. They're the things that we were charged with changing when we won the election. And I know that's what matters most, from personal experience. When I was growing up, we didn't have enough money to pay our bills. And I know what it feels like to sit around the kitchen table worrying about the fact that you can't make ends meet. And that's what people are doing across the country. And our job is to change that. But I also know it's the most important issue that we must focus on, because I know what I'm fighting for and who I'm fighting for. I've got the most working class cabinet in the history of this country sitting around my cabinet table, and I'm really proud of that. Really proud of what they bring to the table, their personal journeys to get there, their experiences. But it is utter nonsense to suggest that that means everybody gets a fair chance in life. Utter nonsense. I feel very strongly about this. I'm in that cabinet as Prime Minister, having come from a working class background, to be Prime Minister of this country. But that's the exception. That is not the rule. Even within my own family, my brother, who died last year, he had difficulties learning when he was growing up. He spent his adult life wandering from job to job in virtual poverty. This system, this political system, didn't work for him. And there are millions of people in the same boat. Children in poverty, young people who don't get the opportunities they deserve, millions of people held back because of a system that doesn't work for them, who are not given the dignity, the respect, the chance that they deserve. And I'm fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister, and this is their government. And I will never give up on that fight. There are some people in recent days who say the Labour government should have a different fight, a fight with itself, instead of a fight for the millions of people who need us to fight for them. And I say to them, I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. I will never walk away from the people that I'm charged with fighting for. And I will never walk away from the country that I love. And that is the country who I truly believe we are, a compassionate, reasonable, live and let live country, a diverse country, where given half the chance, we'll help each other out. That is who we are as a country, and I want to serve every single part of that country. The country that I love. But the fight coming up in politics, the real fight, is not in the Labour Party. It's with the right-wing politics that challenges that. The politics of reform. The politics of divide, divide, divide. Grievance, grievance, grievance. That will tear our country apart. That is the fight that we are in. And I will be in that fight as long as I have breath in my body. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm now looking forward to a nice cup of tea.
Well, I mean, there was a lot to dissect there from Keir Starmer, to be perfectly honest, in that speech. Again, he's trying to bury the story with regard to Peter Mandelson. He's trying to carry on. He feels like he's done enough to see Tim Allen and Morgan McSweeney resign from their posts, and is now trying to take a step forward and say, look, I'm getting on with this now. He also says that he's that he's not going to be leaving. He's going to be fighting for as long as he's got breath in his lungs to deliver the mandate he was voted into power on. Now, this is a very interesting one because I always come back to 2022. Well, wasn't Boris Johnson voted in on the mandate to change? But this is what he did when he was going through turbulence and going through, well, I agree, it was chaos under the Tories. But this is what he literally said about Boris Johnson.
This is the continual weakness of the Prime Minister, because there's a double weakness here. He should never have appointed him in the first place, along with other members of the Cabinet that shouldn't have been appointed. And then he didn't sack him. And even today, it's Raab who resigns rather than the Prime Minister who acts. And I think, you know, we're here at Middlesbrough College. I've been talking to the next generation of NHS staff. They desperately want to talk about the future of the NHS. And here we are talking about these weaknesses at the top of the Tory party. And I think, you know, in the end, after 13 years, it just demonstrates that no matter how many times you change the person at the top, you've essentially got a party that just can't deliver, just can't govern.
And the same can be said for you, Keir. So you're saying that you're not going because you were appointed on the mandate of things, right? So you haven't delivered on anything. You've done zero since coming into power. And what it's been since you've been Prime Minister is complete and utter chaos. And I agree with 2022 Keir Starmer that that's how a government should be held to account. However, he doesn't live by that same standard, and he's not going anywhere. So despite all of the scandals that have happened, despite this, that should have been the final nail in the coffin, he said he will never resign. So that tells you everything that you need to know from Keir Starmer's standpoint. He doesn't want to resign and never will resign as long as he's got breath in his lungs. Then, of course, turns the conversation to reform. He says, oh, our fight is against right-wing politics. So majority of Britons, and bearing in mind, this guy also said that I don't want to let you people down. You people down that voted for me. You've already let those people down already. Bearing in mind, I don't know if he's looked at the his approval rating. I think 11% of the country right now support him as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, which was a lower approval rating than Maduro, who was, of course, taken out of Venezuela. He had 19%. So I don't know who he's fighting for. I don't know who his supporters are, because they certainly are a massive, massive minority inside the United Kingdom. So, again, he says that he's fighting for these people. He's not, and he will continue not to deliver change. But again, trying to put the fight onto reform and say we are going to be fighting against this divisiveness inside our country. The politics of grievance he wants to fight against. And he doesn't want it to be about infighting. Keir, your party is imploding. And if this was the speech that convinced Labour cabinet ministers and Labour MPs to get back on side with him, then God help us. That was just the same stuff I've heard loads of times about him getting around the old kitchen table and counting the pennies as his father owned a business. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to understand this definition of this guy in terms of what working class means. Keir is not working class. He's middle class. He came from a middle class background. Keir Starmer is middle class. There's very difference between working class and middle class. He is from a middle class background. He's not from a working class background, and that's clear and obvious to see from his childhood. So again, him talking about getting around the kitchen table all the time, trying to sound relatable, I don't think is really something that actually happens. Why would Keir be involved with the conversations with his parents around the kitchen table about how they're going to be paying for the bills? I don't think that happens, really. Certainly, I come from a very working class background, a single mother and stuff like that. And my mum wasn't around me with the kitchen table talking about how we're paying certain things. I think she just got on with it like most people and tried to do her very best. But yeah, just trying to sound relatable at every turn and making out as he is the man for working people. Keir Starmer is not a man for the working people, and that's clear to see. He is a man that is pushed towards his voters' allegiances and what they want. He's the guy that panders to certain people in a sector. So the Islamic vote, of course, because that's all they've really got left, and people that are on benefits. He's not for the working people. He's not for workers. Workers is an interesting one because the Labour Party always represented the working people in yesteryears, years and years and years ago, before they made an arse of everything. But they were for working people, everyday working people, much like many of you guys that are watching this channel. That's who they were supposed to represent. Now they don't represent those people. They continue to push them into further poverty, and again, punish working people in this country, punish entrepreneurs in this country, and literally just cater towards trade unions, but even unions have gone against them due to some of the policies that they brought out. And of course, people that are on benefits, and of course, the Islamic vote. That's it. That's the only people, when he says that he's working for them, that's the only people that he is trying to deliver for. Nothing for working people. They go against working people at every single turn. And they also go against people starting their own companies and businesses and stuff like that. So don't listen to that nonsense. We've heard that chat time loads and loads of time. But I love how he's just trying to bury this now. Move on, that he's delivering the mandate and he's never going to leave because, well, he was voted by many people and we don't want them to let them down. Keir, trust me, I speak on behalf of 89% of the country right now, if I'm looking at most recent polls, that 89% of the country will want you now, if you really represented the British people, for you to resign and then going out the door, trigger a snap general election. That will be you delivering on what the British people want. I promise you. Again, you can go out the door, not necessarily with your head held high as such, but you would go out there and not cause any more damage than you already have. If you really wanted to deliver for British people, look at the polls, look at your situation, look where you stand, and trigger a general election. Then you will be delivering a mandate for what the British people want. But guys, let's get into the live chat. I want to see some of your reaction on Keir Starmer and what he had to say in this speech. I think we did get a super chat, so I'll be getting to that one first. So thank you so much for your generosity, guys, as always. But guys, thank you quickly for eSight Sightings UK. He donates £5 as the only mandate he had is from Ukraine. I think 4 men he dated so far. That's funny. That is funny. Thank you, mate, for your generosity. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more answers on this. Dave, as Dave says, yeah, I mean, military personnel are certainly working class people that, you know, are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice in the United Kingdom for this country, and he sold them down the river many, many times and continues to sell them down the river. So he is not for working people. You need to get that clear. And Keir needs to stop asserting to himself as a working class individual, was formerly of the working class. I have no problem with people becoming successful, but don't try and rewrite history and say you are of working class. Because I don't think so. I'm sure he attended Reigate Grammar School, which I don't know. I don't know if he went to private school. I'm not too sure, but let's have a little look. I'll have a little look. Secondary education. Starmer attended Reigate Grammar School in Surrey. It became a private fee-paying school while he was a student. So it is said that he was in a private school. I don't know many working class people that go to private schools. So just putting that out there quickly. It became a private fee-paying school while he was a student. But he attended, apparently. He started the school as a state-funded, but it turned into a private-funded. Regardless, this guy is not working class. I'm sorry, he's middle class. Which, that's not an issue, I'm not saying. But I don't like how he just comes out and says that he's working class, because he's not. Or was working class. What a drip that melt, and what a melt Starmer is. Nothing but a spineless little smoke bubble of a human being. Everybody loves to see April. I'm looking forward to April as well, to be fair. Angela says, Starmer's like a shit stain you can't wash out. He's acting like that, isn't he? I love the hypocrisy that's coming out our way. From Keir Starmer and all these Labour politicians. I say I love it. I don't love it. But yeah, it's interesting to see the hypocrisy that is coming their way. Because if you look at their comments in 2022 to now, and their situation is a whole lot worse than where the Tories were, it's interesting to see that they literally don't live by their own words. They don't implement the actions of their own words that they were saying in 2022. I think it's utterly insane. John says he must have been paid those people in the hall to clap him. Well, they always are. It's usually a bit of a hostage situation, isn't it, in the back row? There's a few people that I just put there. It's like, I remember the one with McLaren where he was trying to jump in on Lando Norris's success. And he was at McLaren, and everyone was just like, get me out of this camera shot. Get me out. There. Mandy says, reform, only chance to save our country. I think so. I think reform are the best bet right now, for sure. Of course, Advanced UK emerging as well. But both, I mean, I always see in the comments, it's a very, very split within our subscriber base. A lot of Advanced UK, a lot of Reform UK, and I think sometimes we have a few Tories come on here as well. So, yeah. I don't think we've got many Green Party nor Labour supporters. I don't think many of them exist, really, to be fair. They were imported seals clapping. Exactly. Yeah, no, but it's just the same old nonsense from Keir, really, with these sort of speeches. They're all just full of, well, he's just full of crap all of the time when it comes to it. And again, now it's all about normal proceedings moving forward, and it's the fight against reform. And I am the guy that's never going to let down this country. Keir Starmer's words, not mine. So guess what? He's not going anywhere. He's going to have to be dragged out, kicking and screaming. So this is probably the end of this saga now. He thinks it's over. Of course, PMQs tomorrow is probably going to be dominated with a lot of resignation calls as well. And then, yeah, the next probably chance to see Keir Starmer go is the May local elections when he bottoms out. Yeah, pardon the pun. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in.